ensemble. It's like 6 players, I think. It sounded amazing.
Sweet.
Yeah, it's beautiful.
That's great.
Okay, we're live. All right, I think we're live. Thank you for joining us, everyone. We're here, for those of you online, in Suncor Energy Hall at the School of Music at Memorial University. Today we'll be discussing audition techniques, what we look for in an audition, and you will have a chance to ask all of your burning questions. But first, we're going to watch a short video all about the School of Music. Showcased a little bit of what life is like here at the school. And for those of you, you might see me checking my phone, I'll be monitoring any questions that come in, so you'll be able to ask them at the end online as well as here in the audience. So before I get in to, I'm sure what everyone is wondering, like, what are we going to do on audition day? I'm going to introduce our panel. So here with us tonight, we have Dr. Joe Argentino, we have Dr. Lynn Kuo, Dr. Ellen Klaus, and Dr. Carolyn Schiller. So give them a big round of applause for coming out here tonight. So let's talk a little bit about our auditions. So auditions for 2020 will be starting in Toronto. So those of you who are auditioning in Toronto will be auditioning on February 19th. Then we'll be moving on to Halifax, and in Halifax we'll be there on February 21st. Now, those of you who are auditioning here in St. John's, Newfoundland, it's a little bit more of an extended welcome weekend. All of our audition experiences are very welcoming. We'll have a wonderful panel there to greet you. In St. John's, we will start off on February 27th, and that's going to feature our faculty gala. So our faculty gala it's one of our most anticipated concerts of the year. And we'll have performances from faculty, from some of our students, and also from our staff. I'll be singing this year. Plug. But that's so much fun. And this year will also be emceed by Dr. Joe Argentino and our dean, Dr. Ian Sutherland, who really wishes he could be here with us tonight, but because there is a big storm coming again tomorrow, he's had to take off on a flight today, so he sends his welcome to all of you. So then we have on February 28th, we have our backstage access. This is such a cool event. So our backstage access, if you haven't signed up already, it gives you the opportunity to follow around a student at the School of Music, usually in your instrument of concentration. And you'll be able to see what a day in the life is truly like. There's also a lot of fun activities that day. We'll be having pizza. We'll also be having movement classes that will get you in the zen and ready for those auditions and in the mind space for that. So it's a fun day, and it really gives you a sense of what the school is like. And then finally, we have our audition day, which is February 29th. That's the big day, and again, there's going to be food here for you that day. There's going to be lots of volunteers if you need to ask anybody questions, if you don't know where a room is. So there will be people there to help you out that day. Now, our distance, those of you who might be online watching our distance auditions, the videos are due on February 14th, so that can be your Valentine gift to us. We look forward to receiving those videos. Okay, so what to expect on audition day. On audition day, we'll have of course, your audition on your primary instrument. Now, if you're auditioning on both instruments, those two auditions, or two different instruments, those two auditions will be on the same day. Be sure to check your Bright Space schedule. Tonight will be all about checking your Bright Space account. Any information that is personal to you will be there. You will also have your theory assessment and your sight singing assessment, which I will get Dr. Joe Argentino to speak about in a moment. And the piano proficiency test. Now, the piano proficiency test is always gets a lot of questions, so ask away tonight if you have any more. But it is not mandatory for you to do the piano proficiency on audition day. However, if you are accepted into the School of Music, you will have to do it at a later date. So if you can, and if you're feeling ready, we suggest that you do it on that day, but do not fret. You can do it at a later date. I will say that the theory assessment can be done on the Friday. So on Friday the 28th, you can do your theory test that day. Highly recommend this. I'm actually a graduate of the School of Music myself, and if I had that option when I was auditioning, I would have done that. So then you don't have to think about it on your audition day. It's nice to get it out of the way and get it done a day early. So, with that being said, let's get to our wonderful panel. So we'll start with Dr. Joe Argentino, who will tell us a little bit about himself and if you can, tell us a little bit about the theory and sight singing and what to expect. That would be marvelous.
Excellent. Well, welcome everyone, and welcome to everybody online. My name is Joe Argentino. I'm a music theory professor here at the School of Music. I primarily teach music theory courses and sight singing classes and dictation classes, which are combined. For yourselves and for the actual audition date, everyone is expected to take a theory placement test. The theory placement test is essentially a way for us to know where you are at this point in your musical career, and it would kind of give us an indication of what courses you would eventually take, either our remedial music theory courses or the first year main entrance course. And of course you can ask any questions you'd like about the courses afterwards. The tests themselves, just so that you have an idea of what's going to happen. First of all, there are sample theory tests online. So if you look on D2L, you can see a sample theory test. And the sample theory test is very similar to the actual theory test that you'll be taking here or for those of you who are having auditions in Halifax or Toronto, these tests will also be administered at those particular centers this year. So the test itself has two components to it. The first component is a dictation portion. The dictation portion will basically play some intervals, have you identify the intervals. We'll play chords, have you identify the chords. Play a very simple melody, and an example would be Twinkle, Twinkle, Little Star, of that kind of level. And again, a simple rhythm, something in simple time, like 3/4 time or 4/4 time, straightforward quarter notes, eighth notes, that kind of idea. And then there is the actual written part, and the written part is essentially writing scales, all the different types of scales, notating intervals, identifying intervals, knowing your scale degrees, like the names of them, such as tonic, supertonic, being able to say, this is in this key, this is the supertonic pitch. And then some simple rhythms, like filling in the rests for rhythms. But I would highly encourage everyone to have a look at our online test, the sample, just so you have an idea of what that will be like. And I think hopefully that's answered some of your questions, and of course I'll field any questions afterwards as well. If you have any more specific questions that you'd like to ask, I'd be more than happy to answer.
That'd be great, thank you. Let's move on to Dr. Lynn Kuo. Lynn, could you tell us a little bit about yourself, what you're doing at the school, and Dr. Kuo gave a wonderful presentation to our current students recently for our Career Talk series. We get people into our school a couple of times a semester to talk about future careers after a music degree. And Dr. Kuo had a wonderful presentation about preparing for auditions. So if you could tell us a little bit about yourself at the school and auditioning.
Hi everybody, my name's Lynn Kuo, and hi everybody online. I used to be a student here myself. I was a first year, actually, and I will attest to the theory program here. It is excellent. I then left to go to Toronto, to U of T, University of Toronto, and I quickly discovered there how well prepared I was in my theory. Piano skills, ear training. I was very well trained, very solid because of my training here at Memorial. So I will put in my vote for that, for the program here. And I also studied piano with the piano prof here. She's also great as well. Let's see, I'm visiting assistant professor of violin here. The professor of violin is on sabbatical, so I'm here to replace her for the winter semester only. So unfortunately, you will only see me for this limited amount of time. And I used to be her student. So I can also attest to her great professorship. I learned most of my skills. My formative years were with Dr. Nancy Don. And I feel really, actually quite honored to carry her skills and all of the skills that I learned from her to her students from a slightly different perspective. I went on to do, I'm right now an orchestral violinist in Toronto. So I bring my experience in the orchestral world to the students here at Memorial. And I have played in orchestras and played soloists with orchestras all over the world.
Yeah, that's wonderful. So where are you currently, who are you currently playing with?
I'm assistant concertmaster of the National Ballet of Canada Orchestra, and then I freelance elsewhere, Canadian Opera Company, Toronto Symphony, and I play freelance concertmaster with other orchestras. Actually, 4 o'clock in the morning, I'm returning to Toronto and playing a small Canadian chamber opera, and then I'm playing concertmaster for James Bond's Skyfall. Yeah.
Oh, that's so much fun.
Yeah.
So you have a lot of experience preparing for auditions.
I do.
So what would you suggest? Now, a lot of you are auditioning in the next month. This is February. Yes, so this month. What suggestions would you get now that we're getting close to audition day?
Well, if you have, I guess it would be between 1 week and 2.5 weeks, depending on which city or where you are for people online. In these last week and a half, I would say I find slow practice, but if you're doing slow practice, make sure you are maintaining phrasing, your musicality. If you're doing closer to tempo, I like the term, actually I learned this term from a former student, a graduate, and he's now professor of piano at University of Hawaii, and he learned it from a former dean here, Dr. Maureen Volk, to do 80% practice. And I really like that, so that you're not doing 100% full speed, But at 80%, your brain has enough wherewithal to catch any bad habits you are instilling into your practice, so you can catch things and practice just slightly under tempo so that you have control. And whatever tempo you choose, I think it's always important to maintain your phrasing, your intention, your emotionality, and whatever musical stamp you want to say, whether it's in slow motion or in absolute up to tempo. And in that time, I find it very helpful to do a lot of mental rehearsal. And when I prepare for a concert, or especially an audition, I do a lot of meditation, and that happens usually first thing in the morning and before I go to bed. And this is the time of where the brain can slip into a very good state, where you can get into, I believe, alpha brainwaves. Please correct me if I'm wrong. And at that point in time, when you start to rehearse, in particular, I think it's particularly good to rehearse the beginnings of your pieces. You can actually imagine every single detail. If it's in this room, for example, you can imagine the door opening and your footsteps along this floor and the feel of your instrument in your hand or your music in your hand. And you can imagine that the panel will be somewhere. You can sense your heart rate. Your heart rate will be going. And you imagine all those details. I imagine everything from how my instrument feels to how it feels when I put it under my chin. I even imagine when I hold my bow, I always do a double check. I imagine everything. And I have a piece of cloth here, and imagine that. And then I know what it feels like to do the very first selection of my pieces, and I hear it in my head, exactly how I want to hear, a couple of measures, and then I start. I let the music pull me in so that I don't have time to think too much. Oh my gosh, did I tie my shoes? Did I feed the dog? None of those things can happen. Overthinking can happen, and I'm very good at overthinking.
That's a wonderful way to help prepare for nerves or performance anxiety.
Oh, and one more thing. I would recommend doing a lot of mock auditions. So if you don't have people to play for, turn on a recording device. A video is even better. Put it on a stand and then pretend and walk into a room. I've even done actually getting my heart rate up with the recorder already started. And I do actually, what I do squat kicks. I take karate, so we do squat kicks in the dojo. So I do that, get my heart rate, depends on how in shape you are. Then you go into the room and your heart is pumping. Then you pick up your instrument and play cold. So I do a bunch of those as well.
That's great. 2 squats and I'd be done. All right, let's move on. Thank you so much. This is a great opportunity if any of you have questions at the end about auditioning, and if you have nerves, perfect panel to ask. So, Dr. Ellen Klaus, could you tell us a little bit about yourself and what you look for in an instrumental audition?
Okay, well, thanks for being here and online. I teach trumpet and horn, along with assorted other classes, chamber music, brass ensemble, career skills, stuff like that. So for brass auditions, which are the ones that I tend to sit on, I'm looking for someone to come in and show preparation and potential more than perfection. So it's really important that you don't put yourself under the pressure of everything having to be perfect and you miss one note or one phrase and you think it's bombed, because that's not at all what it's about. Like, I'm looking for a student, not a professional gig recording a live CD, right? And so take some risks, have some fun, try to feel the emotion. Like, for me, if I'm on stage and I can feel the emotion welling up or the hairs on the back of my neck, that's success more than a perfect performance. So you want to be engaged in it. Imagine the emotion, imagine the feeling. Stretch your dynamics. It's okay if you miss a note or a note doesn't speak. It's much better to be exciting than boring and safe. Because we'll be excited by your potential and forgive your mistakes. But if everything's just safe and flatlined, we don't know where you can go. So you present better as an auditioner if you take some risks. That's the big thing. And then, of course, as far as like what we're grading on the scale, we're looking at tone and intonation and preparation and musicianship. So
That's great advice. So we'll move on to Dr. Carolyn Schiller. And Dr. Schiller is part of our vocal faculty, and I know there are a lot of singers. So if you could tell us what you look for in a vocal audition, that would be wonderful. And tell us a little bit about yourself.
Well, hi, I'm Carolyn Schiller. I teach voice and I direct the opera program here at MUN. Everything my colleagues just said, they're wonderfully articulate. Yes to all of that. Honestly, I think we're really looking for you to excel and do, all of us, what you do best. I think there's a lot of pressure, obviously, around auditions. We want to do the best we can, and very often we very often get in the way of that. So I guess what I would say to any students auditioning, understand that the panel listening to you is really excited to hear you. They're really excited to hear your best work and what you have and what you have to offer and how you feel about your performing. So really that is the goal. The preparation that Lynn spoke of is exactly what I would suggest. I always visualize everything from getting up in the morning and having breakfast all the way through the entire day. I picture what it's like to walk into the room. What am I going to wear? What do I look like? And that idea of what it feels like to breathe and to sing the first phrase of music. Really trying to connect with the music that you're singing, and at the end of the day, really picking repertoire that highlights what you do best. I think that's what's most important. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Definitely. That's fantastic. Thank you so much. So now let's ask, now it's your turn to ask the questions. We also have some coming in online already, so thank you so much, everyone. All right, what questions do you have from the audience? We'll pass a mic. The mic is purely so that people online can also hear the questions that you're asking. Yeah, all right. Who would like to ask first?
Don't be shy.
They're quiet.
You said that Dr. Dawn was on sabbatical. Will she still be at the audition?
I believe no.
Lisa, oh, I forgot to introduce someone extremely important. We have Lisa McDonald here with us tonight. She's the SAO for the school. She'll be able to answer this question.
Sure, and actually, Dr. Quo, I believe, is going to be sitting on the string auditions this year, as Dr. Dawn is on sabbatical. Great question.
Mm-hmm. I will look online. We have a couple here. Yeah.
Repeats in pieces. Like, how long? Like, will like if you have a long piece, will you be like cut off if it's like 6 minutes, like, and repeats and stuff? Like, do you tend to like repeats and stuff?
I guess it depends on the repertoire and how long how long are auditions?
Usually 15.
15.
Mm-hmm.
I guess no repeats.
In terms of voice, that's a very good question.
Yeah, it is a good question.
Realize that the committee really wants to hear everything that you sing. For voice, we usually hear everything, but if one of your pieces is, a 7-minute aria, we might just forward. And if that happens, please don't take it as a sign that something went wrong. It's just, but more that we want to make sure we hear everything that you have to offer, and giving you as much opportunity to shine as possible. So.
Yeah, from my perspective, the best thing to do is to come in with a plan that shows you off the best. Yeah. So you can always be flexible, but you want to come in with your plan that's the best instead of being too much up for outside influence. Mm-hmm. The uncertainty can be a little unnerving.
So it depends on how much rep you have, and realize there's a 15-minute slot, including walking in, saying hi, having a little debrief, and walking out. So if you have only 10 minutes of music, you're probably okay to play it all, and then show the repeats, especially if you're doing something different. But if you have too much repertoire, then plan to make a cut. If you're a brass player and the repeats make you really, really tired, maybe you should plan on not doing it. You don't want to necessarily show your weakness. Set it up so that you're showing off your strengths is my advice. Come in with that plan.
In voice, we'll hear, because every discipline's a little bit different. In voice, the audition at the undergraduate level is 3 pieces of music. We'll hear part of all 3 and start with whatever you like. It's your choice. So have a little think about that beforehand. What's going to put you most at ease in terms of coming into the audition, and what piece you're going to be most comfortable with starting, and then we'll go from there.
We have a question online from Emily. Emily says, "Hi, I'm applying for my master's, and I wanted to verify that there's no theory, ear training, or piano proficiency test."
That would be accurate.
Correct.
There are no diagnostic
Well done.
tests for graduate applications.
She's also wondering about the chamber group opportunities within the school.
Oh, there's lots of that.
And
Yes.
Alan, you've done
Yes.
some, if you could speak on that behalf of anyone, that would be wonderful.
Well, there's a lot of opportunities depending on your instrument. So there's small ensembles and opera workshops that happen, whether they're brass ensemble or flute choir sometimes. But then the specifically chamber music opportunities are often set by students. You create a group and you present a proposal, and based on faculty availability and your schedule, it's approved or not, and you prepare repertoire together, and you get coachings anywhere from weekly to every couple weeks, depending on how many credits you want. And then you can join up with any students. It could be a standard group like a string quartet or a brass quintet, or it could be a mixed group. Could be even as simple as piano and voice, or piano and clarinet, or there's all kinds of possibilities. And sometimes you can just apply for chamber music without having a group, and then they'll try to piece it together.
Yeah. And there are, the Chamber Music Showcase happens at the end of each semester, so there are 2 concerts that showcase all the work that everyone puts into it. But there are also some performance opportunities throughout the year as well. So you get a chance to work with our fabulous faculty, but you also get a chance to practice the performance of those chamber groups.
And she's a grad student, correct?
Yes.
So for grad students and also senior undergrad students, you can pursue opportunities off campus. So there's courses like 4503, I think, Music in the Community, and you can prepare concerts for performance in the community in chamber groups, but outside of the chamber music course.
Do you have a question from the audience?
This is somewhat of a personalized question, I suppose, but on the website, it says that you have to bring in extra copies of the music that you are going to be performing, and I have not been able to acquire an extra copy for one of my audition pieces. So, what's the regulations surrounding that, I suppose?
What instrument do you play?
Organ.
Organ. Okay.
Yes,
I know it's all different. No, and the only reason I say that is it's slightly different for each discipline. For voice, actually, we never look at it. And so I would say, if you were a singer, I would say don't worry about it. But yes, could you? Yeah.
I don't know if I need to speak in this or not. But in your case, I think just connect with our office and just make them aware of that. And Annie Corrigan, who most of you probably have been in contact with at some point, she's superb. I wish she was here. She wishes she was here. But she'll liaise with you specifically on that. I don't think it's of any reason to be concerned.
Anyone else from the audience? Yeah, great.
How do you choose to opt in for the piano proficiency test?
You
can email music auditions at mon.ca, and Annie will actually sign you up for piano proficiency. So I do believe that is going to be available on the Backstage Access Day on the Friday typically, and you can do a sign up for it. It's usually in a 10-minute slot. Yeah.
I will also remind everyone as well that if there are other scheduling that you're concerned about, you can always check your Brightspace as well. That's a great tool, and I believe there's messaging.
Yeah, so for anybody that hasn't logged into Brightspace yet, it's pretty critical that you do, because there you'll see where all of your appointment times are. If you are auditioning by distance, there'll be reminders about what you need to know in terms of submitting your application, and also some of the details around the theory assessment if you are a distant applicant. So for anybody that hasn't, we would strongly recommend that you do that. And if you are having difficulty, then please get in touch with Annie, and we'll liaise with our departments here at Memorial to help you out.
We have another question online. For an audition, do we need a piano accompanist if your instrument is appropriate for an accompanist? I would say if you are not a pianist, for the most part, you would need an accompanist, correct?
Mm-hmm. I think that would be what we would highly recommend.
Yes.
There have been cases where that hasn't happened, but yeah, if it's something that you want to kind of chat with us about a little bit further and notify us, perhaps you're having difficulty locating an accompanist. If you are auditioning in one of our offsite locations, we've had that before, and we can help liaise, find somebody suitable for you. And the same thing, if you're traveling to St. John's as well, and that you would like to be paired with an accompanist, we can certainly make strong recommendations and help you, assist with you on that.
Yeah, I'd say it's strongly recommended, but not required. It's impactful if you're trying to pursue a scholarship, for sure. It shows intonation and rhythm and ensemble and rubato and all that. So
In voice, it's working with you.
there you go.
I think it's quite important because it's like presenting a partner dance without a partner.
That's right.
There's something missing. Yeah, you can show off your side, but the performance will lack a big half.
Mm-hmm. For your theory placement test, no pianist required.
I believe it goes without saying, if it is a solo piece, you wouldn't need one, right? Okay.
Absolutely. Yeah, solo is solo.
I have a question about theory.
Whoa.
So, if I just say I went to a high school that did not have theory courses, how would you recommend someone prepares, especially leading up in this time over the next couple of weeks for the theory placement test?
Okay, well, essentially for the theory placement test, the most important thing is to really know your key signatures. So it's something that I think that there are a lot of programs or texts that people can acquire. To be honest, I mean, if you've never studied theory and it's 2 weeks away from today and you have no idea, it'd be very challenging, but that's not a problem because we'll eventually train you. But for the theory placement test itself, I think that just knowing your key signature is really, really like just well, so you're not wasting any time. And then kind of just reviewing, again, the best idea is just to review the test that is up on Brightspace. Get a sense of what the questions are like, and then just practice those questions over and over again. There's no tricks. That test looks very similar to the test that you'll see, except that the keys may change. They will, of course, and that's pretty much it. But for those who are preparing well in advance, I think there are a lot of tools or texts or apps even that you can use for practice as well.
Right. Do you have, I know that we definitely have some people in the audience tonight who will be auditioning in the future, well, you're all auditioning in the future, but in next year. What kind of, do you have any apps in mind that they could potentially go and use?
No, to be honest, I'm not up on the apps myself. It's not something that I've been looking at. Generally, I recommend texts, and I'm not sure if I should be recommending certain texts online. I feel like better. But I will say this: if anybody's out there that wants some recommendations or suggestions, please contact me. I guess if you look at the school website, look me up, send me an email, and I will correspond with you very happily.
Oh, that's wonderful. Great. Again, any questions from the audience? All right.
How complex are the sight singing passages?
Well, they have recently been revised this year. I feel like they're a little fairer now, like in a sense, like not that they were unfair before, but I think they're a little more straightforward now. And I will, since you guys showed up and if you guys are listening online, primarily the sight singing passages are in major keys, and if there are skips, there'll be skips of the tonic triad or the dominant triad, accompanied by stepwise motion. The rhythms are simple time signatures like 3/4 or 4/4, or also 6/8 time. Those are the two possibilities. So compound meters. So essentially practicing skipping around tonic triads, dominant triads, and some stepwise motion would be kind of a way to practice that. I do have a copy here of a sample melody and a sample rhythm. I'm not sure how I could share this. I mean, I can just pass it around. You can have a look at it. For those of people online, I don't know if you'd want to zoom in or something. I'm not sure how technical you want to get here. But yeah, so essentially like looking at like very simple passages and just kind of practicing singing them. We're not looking for any specific style. Like you don't have to use solfege. You may, of course, but you can sing on a neutral syllable. That's all fine. So the sight singing component, you'll basically be given a passage. You'll be given the person who administers the exam will play the tonic triad for that passage, solid and broken. This has become standard in the Royal Conservatory of Music. That's the way that for all singers, or if you're following that, that's what they do. You'll be asked to sing the tonic with the first pitch, and then afterwards you'll have 30 seconds to look over. And I highly recommend, people get nervous, you go into a sight singing exam or anything, just take your time. I would just look at the thing until the person says, okay, can you please sing it now? But do take your 30 seconds and just run through it a few times, and then don't rush, like just go through it slowly. You'll also be given a rhythm, and the rhythm again would be simple time or compound time signature. Again, you'll be given a certain amount of time to look through it, so please do tap through it until the person says, all right, let's listen. Again, try not to rush, don't rush through these things, and sort of try to take some deep breaths before as well, like before you do it. So.
I can definitely recommend doing that, because in my oral skills placement test, years ago when I auditioned, I rushed into it at first and I got flustered, and the person who was giving the exam looked at me and she said, "It's okay, can you clap it?" So I clapped it, I took a breath and went back, and everything was fine. So yes, take your time. There are wonderful people who are going to be doing these exams. And it's important to remember as well that they are proficiency tests. So what that would mean, what would that mean? So if someone were to do really well on a theory test, or if someone, did okay, would that prevent them from getting into the School of Music? That's a question we get a lot.
Well, first of all, these tests are proficiency tests. They give us a sense of where you're at. I mentioned this earlier. I forgot to mention that for the theory placement test itself, if you gain entrance to the school, there'll be a recommendation made either into the first year stream or into the remedial stream. I just want to say that the remedial stream, this is the 4th year that it's been in place. A student this year is going off to the University of Toronto on a full scholarship to a music theory program who started in the remedial stream. It's a very, very strong program, and don't feel, if you are in the remedial stream or the first year stream, it's just, that's where you're at that time. it won't affect you. By the end, you'll be as strong as anyone else. So keep that in mind. One other thing is that if you don't do well on the theory placement component, in September, you have an opportunity to take it again. And if that is the case for you, please contact me like right after, and I can help you, maybe set you up to give you some guidelines as, to study like certain things. You can also come and meet with me and like sort of talk you through any of the stuff, like even in April, May, whenever you guys find out. When did they find out? April. March, okay. So anyway, so there is time again to improve over the summer. We do offer a summer course that will help prepare you for the retest if that's the case. But again, you don't have to do that course. You can take or study any way that you wish. As far as the sight singing, again, we're getting a sense of, are you ready for first year sight singing or not? Like, so that's another gauge. And it's not a barrier to getting into the program, but and the reality is, if there are two students that are very close to one another and they have like identical grades, identical score, like that could be a factor as to deciding if one person gets in or not. So it is important, but it's not a deal breaker. Like if you don't do well, like don't panic or anything like that. It's just that's the reality. It's just we're just getting a gauge of where you are. Is it a frightening thing? Yes. Is it something?
Not
No, I'm not saying it's frightening, but we're not frightening people. We're really not. I think that the atmosphere is very, very, very warm atmosphere. That's the truth. That's the truth.
And you'll definitely see that on audition days.
Yeah.
Everyone here wants you to succeed. We do have another question online from Cynthia. Lisa, maybe you could answer this question or give us some insight. Are there many spaces for the piano performance program?
I think that the number of spaces, if I'm understanding you, is that it can vary from year to year. So every year, our intake of students really depends on how many spaces that we might have available in the applied studios. Some years we might have 10 voice students leaving, and therefore we have 10 spaces and the ability to accommodate 10 new students. In other years that can fluctuate. So in terms of piano performance, we'll have a number of spaces available next year.
All right. Any more questions from the audience? Ah, great.
In the audition, is there any other big aspects other than singing or playing your pieces that will happen inside the room?
No, not really. I mean, the audition, what will happen is you'll come in at your time. My suggestion is you plan to be early. We do our very, very best to stay on time. We really do try, but in case we aren't, plan to be early anyway. Just then you won't, because then you won't feel rushed. You'll come in. You will choose your first piece of music. You'll tell us what you plan to sing. You'll choose the first piece of music, and then we'll hear the other two. And when you finish singing, then we'll have you sit down and we'll have a little chat. So the panel speaks to you for a little bit, and then off you go to the rest of your day.
I'll just add, for those that are auditioning in Toronto and Halifax, we do the sight singing assessment immediately after your audition. Mm-hmm. So that'll all happen in the same room. And in terms of theory assessment, it'll happen at a set time. And it'll happen after that, or before that, depending on when it's scheduled. But yeah.
Yep. I'll be in Toronto. So hello. See you there.
I just wanted to follow up on the performance question in case it was a little bit deeper, in case they were asking about the performance major.
Sure.
And so the performance major you apply into after your second year. And as far as I'm aware, we don't cap entry into that program by number, we cap it by grades and performance ability. So theoretically, anyone who's admitted could progress into the performance major. The standard that we currently have is a strong A, like roughly an 85. So that's about the benchmark you want to be at to be considering performance.
That actually reminded me as well. One of our programs that you can enter from the very beginning is our Music and Business Joint Degrees program. Lisa, I was wondering if there's anyone in this room or online that thought, I applied for just a music audition, but maybe I'd like to audition for the Music and Business. Can they do that now, before their audition?
The application to the music business double degree programs, I guess the fundamental piece of that is the music audition, is that you need to be accepted to the School of Music first and foremost. There is a additional essay, I believe, as part of that application process. If you have indicated that you are applying for the Bachelor of Music program but would like to switch that application to a Bachelor of Business Administration and a Bachelor of Music, that can be done. It's really just part of a piece of processing here in terms of the application process.
Right. And those who are looking at potentially doing music education, that isn't something that they can do they apply for that afterwards as well, correct?
Yes, in terms of music education, there's kind of two streams that you can do with music education. You can come into the Bachelor of Music program and declare comprehensive as a major. So as Dr. Klaus mentioned earlier, you can perform, and for a performance major, after your second year, there's a number of major streams that you can look at doing, and comprehensive would be one of those, and it would prepare you potentially for a music education degree. And then the other program in terms of music education, I hope I'm accurate on this, is music as a second degree program. So those are the two streams, and you would apply then to the music education faculty for that.
Right. I'm just going to haul up a text here I got from Dr. Suterland earlier. I just want to say, I believe, don't hold me to this, but I believe this is the first time we're announcing that today the new jazz minor has passed Senate.
That is correct.
It is correct.
So, those of you who might look into doing a jazz minor, it's now available at the School of Music, and we have some amazing professors here with us. We're very lucky. So that is something that you might want to consider later on. Questions from the audience? That's my question sound.
So when we get our audition times, slot for audition, I'm not sure if it's supposed to be on Brightspace now, but there's nothing online, so I'll speak to someone else about that, I guess.
You and Annie are going to become friends, I think.
Yes, I think so.
Yeah. Contact Annie anytime. Oh, yep.
For the sight singing assessment, how many passages will we have to?
You'll sing 2 melodies and clap 2 rhythms, like in that session.
Wonderful.
On the sight singing
Yes.
test, I know with AP Theory, you could write on your page and you can write in your solfege and stuff. Would you be able to do that with the test?
Not to my knowledge. I don't know.
Right.
I don't think so.
I didn't think so either,
Yeah,
but
yeah,
I was just making
yeah.
sure.
Yeah.
Good thing to ask.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you'll be giving hints to the next person.
Yeah.
If your instrument requires technique, do you usually do that before or after you do your pieces?
I would give the option.
Yeah.
You come in playing whatever piece you want to start with, unless you request to do scales first.
Okay.
But most people do the repertoire first.
Is there do you have to do your sight reading in the audition, in the room where you do the 3 pieces and stuff?
Only in Toronto and Halifax, but if you're here, you'll do it at another time.
I think you mean sight reading on your instrument or sight singing.
Oh,
Your instrument.
Yeah,
sorry.
that would usually be as part of the technique after the rep.
My apologies.
Depends on the instrument. Do you guys do?
Nope. We don't do it in voice.
Okay.
Short and sweet. They come in, they sing, we have a lovely little chat. And
So for the majority instrumentalists that are auditioning, if you look at our website and you'll see suggestions on the repertoire that you have to sing or perform, pardon me. But there's also a number of technical exercises as well. So that's in case there's confusion around what we're talking about now. Sight singing here in St. John's, not in Audition. Sight singing, Toronto and Halifax, yes. Also within the Audition for instrumentalists, you will be asked technical exercises. And those details are on our website, as well as on the Brightspace shop. Okay?
I have a question. What can we expect? Just because I think the Faculty Gala is one of the most amazing shows that we do every year. And even when I was here, they used to put off a performance, but I feel like they have gotten grander, shall I say, since I've come back to the School of Music to work here. Could you tell us a little bit about what to expect, Dr. Argentino?
Wow. I would also like Alan, if you'd like to.
Alan, sorry, yes.
Alan's been instrumental in organizing each and every year. So I don't. Do you want to say anything first? Or?
Well, sure. It's an assortment of performances. It's open to faculty and staff and students to piece together exciting performances that range from classical canon to pure humor to an exciting theory lecture presentation. Yes. Brought down the house. Believe it or not, for those of you who have not been to Dr. Argentino's theory lectures, it was the MVP of that concert.
Yeah, absolutely.
This year we have, Dr. Quo is playing a violin piece. Chelsea is performing as well. We have some flute collaborations with Dr. Sheremy and students, guitar collaboration, woodwind, a mixed woodwind group, a student group or two. I know I'm going to be forgetting people, but there's a whole variety going on, and including a performance of some compositions by our faculty members, and then it's just a fun evening, and there's usually a reception after. People mingle a little bit.
People mingle. It's a great way to meet new friends and to chat with our faculty and get a really good sense of the space, because you're going to be spending a lot of time there that weekend.
And I think also the spirit of the school.
Yes.
I think that's what's a big piece, because our current students attend it in droves. And they're very excited to be there. They're very excited to see their peers. They're very excited to see the faculty members perform. And there's a real energy in the room. And for everybody that's kind of come in, I know that they've always exclaimed to me what an exciting night it is. And wonderful to be part of the performance.
Yeah.
It's probably my favorite night of the year.
What's the price?
Oh, no price.
Just come.
I think what the whole audition weekend here in St. John's is we want to give applicants a real sense of what the school has to offer. And it starts then with the faculty gala on Thursday night. There's no charge. You can let Annie know if you wish to attend, and we will absolutely have a ticket there for you. We want you to attend, and we want you to be a part of that experience. And then that flows right into our backstage access day. And then you get the chance to attend classes, go to master classes, see rehearsals, and just get to, kind of tag along with a current student and find out what a life in the day of a true student looks like. As well as that, schmooze with the dean, get to meet our Student Music Society, get to do a yoga-style class with Dr. Karen Bulmer, if you so choose, perhaps sing with the festival choir, go to a Latin ensemble. I mean, there's just a variety of things that are going to happen that day. And so we actually have a lot of people signed up for our backstage access this year. I think we have about 30 or so. So it's going to be a wonderful group and a wonderful day. And then, of course, we'll let you get some downtime on Friday night, rest up, get all ready for audition day on Saturday. Saturday, you'll come in, have your various appointments, get the jitters out, and there'll be some performances as usual around the lunchtime period as well from some of our student chamber ensembles.
I will say, for those of you who are online, maybe who support the School of Music or are part of the community, if you have found this link and you're like, ooh, I'd like to go to the faculty ballot, you can buy tickets online at ticketpro.ca. Oh, right. But those of you auditioning, come on by and you get in for free. Let me check if there are any more questions here in the comments. No, we have about 5 minutes for questions if anyone would like to ask anything else. Yeah?
I have a very general question about, I guess more so about beating the inner game of your mindset and preparing, I guess, mentally for the audition. So if you have any advice for that, I'm not too sure.
Start being aware of your thoughts. And there's actually something I read in, I think it's 1 Minute Millionaire, a book, and you can put a rubber band. Oh, look, I got one. So start being aware of your thoughts. And I feel like one of the things that may sabotage our best performance is what we say to ourselves on a regular basis, from morning to night. So sometimes I can use this rubber band if, let's say, I'm practicing and I hit a note that's not to my taste, poor sound, out of tune. The first thing I might say to myself is, oh my God, Lynn, you suck. Now, was I aware of that? It may have been reflexive. But if I start to become aware of what I'm saying to myself, I have the potential of becoming my best coach. And in 7 to 18 days, it's possible to become your best coach. So one way, perhaps, to say, oh, if you catch yourself, I suck. Oh. You kind of do this just to say, oh, okay, I should not say something like that. Maybe you say, hey, you can do that better. Just try again. What would your best friend say to you? And if they put them right on your shoulder, what would that person say in your little ear? You can do it. Try it again. And it's almost like you're talking to your favorite puppy or your favorite kitten or your favorite niece or nephew. I think that's one technique I could try before a big pressure-filled performance. You want to be the best, kindest voice you have because you are your 24-hour coach. You have no one else besides you but you. Your teacher can come in 1 day a week, but unfortunately they can't be in the room with you. So what would that person say to you when you walk into the room? If you were a boxer in a fighting ring, what's the coach going to say to you? What are the 3 most important things that coach would say into your ear before you get into the ring? Similar, when you walk into the audition room, what would that person say to you? And perhaps you can jot it down on the corner of your music.
You mentioned something actually in our career talk about omens and how people might, I thought that was really interesting if you'd like to tell the group.
I purchased 10 coaching hours with the very well-known performance psychologist, Dr. Don Green, who resides in LA. And in my 10 hours of coachings, I think my biggest takeaway with him was to convert all of my thinking into positivity. And in my notes, I was just jotting furiously what he was saying on Skype to me. And he said to me, probably my 2nd or 3rd coaching with him, he said, Lynn, I used to live in Manhattan, in New York City, and I would be nervous to teach some of the Juilliard students, or I would be nervous to give a talk. And he gives many talks, and you can look them up on YouTube. And I told him that I watched every single one of them. And he said, Lynn, you have no idea how nervous I was when I was interviewed by Sarah Willis, who's in the Berlin Philharmonic. And I looked at him, really? Were you nervous? You have no idea, Lynn. I'm not a musician, and I'm talking to the best horn players in the world. Of course I was nervous. So how does he beat this kind of pressure? How does he overcome that? He says this mindset of being positive about everything that happens. So he told me the particular example when he was walking down the street. He said, if I saw a building on fire, a negative person might see that building on fire and say, oh no, my performance is going to crumble today. But he said, no, I'm going to light them on fire today. I'm going to light it. So I've taken everything from, oh my gosh, why is this room so cold? I'm going to freeze to death. And what I said was, I think you tweeted it. Yeah.
I did tweet
Yes.
it.
Chelsea tweeted it. I said, oh, hands are freezing. Cold hands, warm heart. They're going to feel my warm heart. So whatever you say to yourself, positivity can really change your mentality. And one of the books that was prescribed for me as required reading is the new tough oh gosh, I'm going to screw this one up. James Loehr, Loehr. The New Mental Toughness. Oh, I've got the title. It's a little red book, easy read. And one of the chapters is called Mindset or Winning Mindset. And it's geared towards athletes. But as I said in my talk, musicians, we are all athletes. And the similarities run deep. We both spend many, many hours in isolation perfecting specific skills. And we utilize those skills under pressure in front of an audience. And that's how we're exactly like athletes. And in this book, this little red book, which I have in my office upstairs, and it's on Amazon, you can use all those techniques that athletes use and convert them into the best performance that you have.
That's wonderful advice. We're going to sign off quickly, but first I wanted to give the panel an opportunity if you wanted to say any last words of advice or any final questions from the audience.
Yeah, I would just say take this time for the next few days, couple weeks, however long you have, to really commit to figuring out how you want to present yourself, like plan everything for that day, what you're going to do when you walk in, what you're going to play, and also give yourself multiple run-throughs, like Dr. Kuo said. I think there's absolutely zero substitute for putting yourself under increased pressure of some kind, even if it's just for a recording device, but especially if you can play for your teacher or friends. Just do it, even if you don't feel ready yet, do it. Yeah.
I would say the same thing, and try to enjoy the day and the lead up to it. If you can be excited about the opportunity to perform, as Dr. Kuo said, the idea of having an opportunity to show what it is that you do and what you love to do, and try and embrace that in spite of what might be concerns of the day, and remember that the people listening to you are very excited to hear you and want to hear you do your best. I would echo what all of my colleagues have said about running your material for whoever will listen, and thinking about putting yourself forward, the best foot forward in that. But yes, trying to, if it's singing, trying to sing for absolutely your teacher, your parents. And I love the idea of video recording. There is nothing like it. And very often the things that we see there are not necessarily what we want to present. But the seeing of it means that we can change it immediately, or at least address it in some way. So, and it shows us all the really wonderful things about the work that we do. So I would be tempted to use that and really, really try and enjoy the day.
One more tiny little thing before we adjourn. My teacher, when he was getting ready to, or helping us get ready for our recitals, he told us of a story. I think he was playing Beethoven Violin Concerto, and I think he said he forgot his shoes in his luggage. I think he had flown somewhere to play a concerto, so I think he had to purchase some shoes locally, and they were not broken in. So he said that in the middle, maybe by the second movement of the concerto, his feet were swelling in these brand new shoes, and they just killed, and they were so painful. So the first thing he said to me was, shoes. Yeah. So he was 80 years old and Hungarian Jewish, and we loved him dearly. He was the Yoda of the Canadian classical music scene, Laurent Fenyves, and he taught at University of Toronto. And I was preparing for my recital. I said, Mr. Fenyves, what do I do? Shoes. So I brought my shoes to my dress rehearsal, and I was wearing heels at the time. So if you're wearing high heels, get used to your shoes.
Yes.
Put on your wardrobe, and put on the video recorder. That will really assist you to envision what it's going to feel like. Shoes.
Shoes, definitely shoes.
Wonderful. So, with that being said, if you have any questions later on, you can feel free to reach out to us at musicauditions@mun.ca. We're also very active online. You can follow us on Instagram, Twitter at music@memorial, or on Facebook at music@mun. You can reach out to us anytime at all. Feel free to tweet. Feel free to post. We might share it. Who knows? Follow us there. So, thank you to our wonderful panel. Don't forget your shoes, and let's have a big round of applause. And those of you who are in the room right now, you can join us in the lobby for some snacks and to mingle. a little if you'd like. Thank you.